Fun.
疫情形势下慢聊人生。
Life in the crisis of the pandemic. Jiefeng. February 8, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. Under the outbreak of a large-scale pandemic, doctors, nurses, and morticians have the most difficult and dangerous jobs. They are like running back and forth on a death line every day. A moment of inattention, and one might become infected and taken away by the king of hell. It has been found that the three occupations listed above are high-risk ones. From now on, we will have deep respect for workers in these three fields. We find that in extreme situations, freelancers who can change their living situations at any time according to their needs are the safest, while civil servants, soldiers, police, employees of state-owned enterprises, medical workers, and the like, who are the nuts and bolts of the state machine, do not enjoy the right to choose freely where they will work. They can only bite the bullet, whether they like it or not. It turns out that freelancing is often the best way to live our lives. The virus broke out and many people fell. Yesterday, they might have been planning for their futures with ambition. Today, everything suddenly collapsed. They themselves even disappeared. No one knows what will happen tomorrow. In this case, we should live every day well. Any behavior or motivation that deliberately weighs the pros and cons are worthless in the face of future changes. What do people rely on for a lifetime? Their state? Their political party? Their religion? Their family? Their friends and relatives? No, none are reliable. The only things that one can trust in are the greatest creator and themselves. Where is the safest place? A city? A rural area? At home? Abroad? Nowhere is safe. The safest place is in the quality, merits, and blessings of your own life. Mankind's fate is destined, but the fates of those who revere the greatest creator and walk the way of the greatest creator can be changed. The fate of human society is also doomed. Read Liu Bowen's inscription of rescue of catastrophe, then relate it to the status quo of today's pandemic. We know that everything is predestined. However, if one walks along the roadmap of life genuine, today's catastrophes can be avoided, even reversed. 10 years ago, I warned repeatedly of the crises that mankind will face and created the modern Noah's Ark for mankind, the new oasis for life, formerly the second home. But not many people listened to me, let alone followed me. Not only did the government not listen to me, but they even attempted to destroy my Noah's Ark. Not only did people not support it, but they ridiculed, satired, mocked, attacked, and verbally abused it. Now, as people face various crises helplessly and are worrying with fear on the verge of death, I want to ask them, why do you not act according to the will of the greatest creator? Why do you not listen to the teachings of gods, Buddhas, and celestials? Do you think that you can escape punishment and death by power, money, or academic status? Laugh not so early and be not complacent about your relative safety today. More violent events will strike you later. Heaven exists, so why not go there? You seem to prefer your fast track to hell? If you do not believe in heaven's existence, the new oasis for life production and life mode created by Life Genuine is right under your noses. It is alive, so why not believe in it? Even if you do not believe the facts in front of you, what else do you believe? Everyone ages, so what is the best way to do it healthily? When a husband and wife are aging together, no one can take care of them. Is this not sad? Even if you can go to a quality nursing home, even if you have children to take care of you, and even if you enjoy elderly benefits like the ones that are offered in Canada, even the world's best old age care methods cannot be compared to those of the new Oasis for Life. They are substantially different. Their benefits cannot be described in tens of thousand words. Why do you not praise them and yearn for them? Today is the Lantern Festival, where the flower market is as bright as daytime. Where is the scene of thousands of doors opened, lanterns lit, the capital boiling in the Lantern Festival of January, countless palace ladies dancing sleeve dances, and the music of singing and dancing straight to the sky? Is it now the whole people? It is the Lantern Festival in my hometown now. I am sitting in a remote, lonely village. Can you still hear firecrackers exploding? Can you still see children laughing and playing games? Can you still smile and laugh for the joyful scenes of girls searching for their favorite people under the lanterns and of, when the moon hung behind the willows, the young people went on dates under it? But in the crowd once and again, I look for her in vain, when all at once I turn my head, and find her where lantern light is dimly shed? Where are the good old days? Who ruined our good times? Will next year's Lantern Festival reappear with its past grandeur? Even if it does, can you guarantee that you will be there? People think that the most visionary people are in the United Nations and in the courts, but reality tells us that behind the red lacquered gates, wine is left to sour and meat to rot, and those who really care about the suffering of the people might be civil workers doing their jobs in society.
不要把自己看成一碟菜。
Do not regard yourself as a dish. Jiefeng. April 5, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. Gaze up at the starry sky. The universe would still be brilliant with one star missing. Look at the river flowing. It would still surge forward with one stream missing. Recall history. The earth would still rotate if a sage were missing. Consider yourself. The world would still be happy without you. Be humble, low-key, ordinary, common, and do not regard yourself as a dish. Looking back at every landscape that I experienced on my journey through life, I found that many people descended sadly because they took themselves as a dish. Zhang Guotao, one of the founders of the Communist Party of China, was once the vice chairman of the central government of the Chinese Soviet Republic. He was the leader of the Red Fourth Army and commanded 100,000 soldiers. What a powerful pillar of talent and command. He finally froze to death in a shabby nursing home in a suburb of Toronto, Canada. Why? Because he took himself as a dish. When the Central Red Army led by Mao Zedong and the Fourth Red Army under his leadership joined forces, Mao had only slightly more than 10,000 soldiers left while Zhang had more than 100,000 elite soldiers. Zhang felt that he should be the boss and he began looking down upon Mao. So their strife, both covert and overt, began. Zhang finally left the party central committee, left the collective, and his ending was very sad. Genius is born and Mao was placed here by the greatest creator. Though Mao was sometimes impoverished, his courage, bearing, and foresight could not be compared to the elites of his age. When Mao's comrades took themselves as dishes, their tragedies became inevitable. Life Achanyuan has been through 17 springs and autumns, and many members who regarded themselves as dishes have left it along the way. Originally more than 2,000 Chanyuan celestials, now less than 200 or 300 remain. The remainder are all honest people who feel that they are not dishes, but it is precisely these remaining 200 or 300 Chanyuan celestials who have witnessed the history of the development of Life Achanyuan, and they have enjoyed the stunning scenery of their journeys through life and life. In 1994, I drove a dilapidated, open-top Jeep through the jungle, alone in the Binga region of northern Matabeleland province, Zimbabwe. As I entered a small town, a large group of people gathered around a drunken native and yelled at him. As I arrived, he rushed over to me and shouted, "This is my boss! This is my boss!" As he pointed his index finger toward me, I felt that my dignity had been violated, so I replied loudly and sternly, "I am not your boss, I am not your boss." The drunken guy meant to flatter me, but he was criticized by me, so he walked away a little grimacingly. The booing people laughed at him, but on the other hand, they seemed to be calling me an unworthy creature. I later became annoyed and regretted it. My attitude had been so ugly. I could have befriended the guy, danced with him and made everyone happy, but at that time, I thought that I was awesome and I felt like I was a dish and became humiliated later as a result. This incident left me with an indelible memory, still vivid after a quarter century. I became wiser after that incident and learned much from it. My biggest lessons were to never regard myself as a dish, and to never look down on a seemingly ordinary person. Even if you encounter a beggar, treat them with courtesy and definitely, never consider yourself superior. I had not yet learned Laozi's Tao Te Ching at that time. Had I learned it, it would have been all glare-tempered, all dust-smoothed, and I would never have made such a low-level mistake. Never look down on an ordinary person. Never leave the collective, the masses, or the main group, and never regard yourself as a dish. When you think that you are superior and are not willing to associate with honest, simple, and ordinary people no matter how freaking awesome you are, You are actually nothing more than flatulence in the breeze.
你被象所迷了。
Are you puzzled by form? Jiefeng. August 6, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. Buddha said that everything with form is unreal. All that is void of form is Buddha. Buddha also said not to abide our minds in form, sound, smell, taste, touch, or dharma, but to actually abide nowhere. The article The Xiefeng pirate ship has set sail frightened a Buddhist student. Reading the expressions beauty kidnappers and love affair makers seemed as a change of color. Reading seducing and flirting scared the wits out of the student. Who is the one professed love of what one actually fears? Puzzled by names and forms without seeing their essence. Puzzled by dharma without seeing the law. A bowl of bird's nest porridge, whether it is called horse urine or dog shit soup, is still nutritious bird's nest porridge. Whether you call celestials vulgar or elegant, they are still celestials. Tao that can be described is not absolute Tao. Names that can be given are not absolute names. Buddha has no absolute dharma. But Buddha's dharma always varies according to the situation. When the highest type of followers hears Tao, the truth, they try hard to live in accordance with it. When mediocre types hear Tao, they seem to be aware and yet unaware of it. When the lowest types hear Tao, they break into loud laughter. If it is not laughed at, it is not Tao. When they do not command faith, some will lose faith in them. Those who lack faith in Xiefeng will find many other things with which to lack faith. Mere humans are always obstructed by their own ideas. Sophisticates are always fascinated by names and forms, alas. The vulgar are knowing and luminous. I alone am confused and dull. The vulgar are clever and self-assured. I alone am depressed.
生命禅院导游雪峰是个屁。
Jiefeng is a fart. Jiefeng. June 29, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. A thing's value is judged according to its usefulness. If no one needs it, it is as a fart. For some people, certain things are supreme treasures, but for others, they are as good as farts. I gave a pig a bowl of pearls. Not only did it fail to thank me, but it also indicated that what I gave it was worse than a fart. I gave a lamb a bowl of braised pork. Not only did it not show any gratitude, but it also accused me of disrespect. I gave a donkey a piece of gold. Not only was it not impressed, but it even kicked me. As I passed a grand ancestral worship ceremony in a village one day, many people were prostrating themselves and kowtowing. I asked a standing man who was watching at the ceremony why he failed to join them. He said that it was for their ancestors, but to me it was just a fart. One day I asked a young man in Africa if he knew who the first president of the United States was. He said that he only knew the presidents of his country, and that the presidents of other countries meant shit to him. No matter how precious things are, how great and important people are, in the eyes of people who do not need them, they are all farts. From this, I came to a conclusion. Life Qianyuan Xiefeng is a fart. This leads to another phenomenon, that farts are to be found everywhere.
不要活在当下，要活在未来。
Live in the future rather than in the present. Jiefeng. August 29, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. The present is painful. Food, clothing, shelter, birth, old age, sickness, death, reciprocity, resentment, and hatred are all current troubles and pains. 9 out of 10 times, life is not as good as one wishes it were. Every family has their problems and each individual has troubles. Troubles are not easily escaped. As we live in the complications of the human world, we have to adapt ourselves to changing circumstances. Every day, People either struggle on the line of death or spend their days worrying. Living in the present is like living in a sea of bitterness. Rooted in the present, our consciousnesses should live in the future because the future is the gathering place of our dreams, ideals, and fantasies. We can imagine the beauty of our future to our heart's content even if the reality is bitter and tired, even if it is terrible. As long as we let our consciousnesses live in an ideal state of the future, we can be optimistic, romantic, treat sad situations as temporary dreams, grit our teeth, and survive. Think about the beautiful futures that we plan. Think about the picturesque and free places in which we will live. Even if the sky falls, it is of no matter. Our past consciousnesses create our present realities. Similarly, our present ones can create better futures. According to the principle of visualized thinking, our futures are mainly created by our imaginations, so we can create our own ideal futures. In this case, why should we live in the present? Would it not be more comfortable to live in a future scenario that we can imagine? The only things that are impossible are those that cannot be imagined. If we live in the future, then we can imagine a better life to our heart's content. This is not Q's way of winning spiritually. It is a way to get rid of difficulties and move towards a better future. We should find ways to make ourselves happy. I was born to a very ordinary peasant family, but my consciousness often lives in the future where thinking about it makes me happy. Many things that I imagined in the past have become my reality today, so I learned the technique of living in the future. I can rest assured that my future will be as thrilling and beautiful as I want it to be. When I live on the island of Balikia on the Celestial Islands continent ahead of time, all of my confusion and worries will be gone, as will my anxieties, concerns, and fears. How stupid it is to live in the present. Live in the future. As long as you live in your imagination of a better future, you will find that the present is a dream. Try to see how it works.
意识与疾病的关系探讨
The relationship between consciousness and disease. Jiefeng. September 15, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. If someone get ill, something must be wrong with their consciousness. Let us compare Bangladesh with Switzerland. Bangladesh is characterized as being dirty, disorderly, and poor. Switzerland is characterized as being clean, orderly, and wealthy. There is a great difference between the two countries in terms of environmental sanitation. Were the mountains, rivers, earth, streets, and lanes in Bangladesh originally filthy and those in Switzerland pristine? Of course not. The problem lies in the collective consciousness of the local people. The Bengalis have never cared about their environmental sanitation, so their environment is filthy, but the Swiss have always paid close attention to theirs, so it is pristine. We will find the same facts and reasons when we go to your neighborhood, and we will find that some families are neat and clean with few mosquitoes and flies, while others are filthy and have many of them. If you want to know the reason, the problem lies in the family's consciousnesses, which has little to do with material wealth, occupations, or even education. From this, we must infer that human bodies are environments, and if they are unclean and unmaintained, then they will have diseases. Does the problem come from other people in society? There is no doubt that there is a problem with the consciousness that is in charge of the environment of the body, and it can only be concluded that if someone is sick, then something has to be wrong with their consciousness. The story of mistaking the shadow of a bough in one's cup for a snake is known throughout China. Du Xian accepted a drink from a county magistrate. After he returned home, he felt abnormal with unbearable pain in his abdomen, and he could hardly eat or drink. Later, after he realized that the snake he thought he had seen in his cup was only the shadow of a bough hanging on the wall, that there had never been any snake in his cup, his illness cleared up immediately. Is this not a typical consciousness problem? It shows that human diseases are all too often caused by the consciousness. Someone felt just a little bit uncomfortable, but they went to a hospital to be examined and were informed that they were suffering from late-stage cancer. After returning home, they fell ill. Their symptoms were like those of cancer. They became desperate, and everyone in their family began preparing for their hospitalization. They went to the hospital again to get more test results and found out that it was only a cold. As for the late stage of cancer, that was just a mistake from reading someone else's chart. After hearing the news, the patient, who was lying in bed and could hardly walk, suddenly jumped up and went home laughing. There have been many such cases. What do they show? They show that many human diseases are made by our consciousnesses. When people are angry and outraged, their hands will tremble, their lips will turn purple, and they will even shiver uncontrollably. Their hands and lips are normal in the beginning, so why would there be trembling and purple coloration? Because their consciousness is angry and outraged. If there is no anger or rage in their consciousness, then their hands will not tremble and their lips will not turn purple. This proves that the physical causes of diseases come from people's consciousnesses. We can continue to infer logically the reasons that consciousnesses lead to diseases, but we have read enough. Conscious illnesses can lead to physical ones. If the above logical reasoning fails, then just observe the people who get ill often. If you observe them carefully, you will see that there are many problems in their consciousnesses. They often share personality traits such as passivity, negativity, pessimism, persistence, jealousy, judgmentality, being nosy, a tendency to gossip, worry, fanciful thinking, selfishness, greed, desires to dominate, quarrelsomeness, individualism, wanting to punish others, easiness to anger, hate, depression, difficulties sublimating themselves, having heart knots but with reluctance to speak out honestly, and so on. At the same time, let us observe those who are healthy and rarely get sick. What are their characteristics? Are they not open-minded, optimistic, romantic, selfless, giving, praising, laughing, and so forth? Listen to this. Some people feign illnesses to escape labor, to avoid a person or environment, to punish others by abusing themselves, or just to obtain the pity and sympathy of others. Children feign illnesses to avoid going to school, and the same holds true for adults. The severity of the problem is that people who pretend to be ill often are sick in their minds to the point where over time, their bodies actually become ill. Another phenomenon of people falling ill is giving unhealthy information to their subconscious minds, such as speaking from their hearts. I really want to lie in bed and have some fucking rest. After you give your subconscious this instruction, it will mobilize all factors to give you some rest, such as an injury, a fracture, the stomach swelling, headaches, accidents, cuts from knives, and so forth. In other words, their subconsciousness will not lie idle, but will help realize that desire to lie in bed. One of the Life-Genuine values is, living in the new oasis for life, one is not allowed to fall ill. Why have you fallen ill? Should you not reflect on it? It has been explained so clearly in the roadmap, but have you followed it? For example, have you thought of the prayers for Chanyuan celestials who live in the home and prayed every day? I have asked you to frequently participate in flirting. Have you done so? Have you done so to eradicate the poisonous weeds in your soul garden, to be more selfless, and so on? I am sorry that not only do I fail to comfort the sick, but even sprinkle salt on their wounds, but as a guide, my being a truth-teller is a fact that cannot be ignored. Of course, some people's diseases are congenital and come from their births. They are in their genetic sequence, which they can do nothing about because every congenital disease carrier bears the consequences of their last life, so they can only bite their bullets and bear them. To tell you the truth, every life in heaven is free from diseases. To say goodbye to diseases forever, you should do more good deeds, accumulate more merits, and walk strictly in accordance with the roadmap given to you by your spiritual guide.
所有抱怨都没道理。
No complaints make sense. Jiefeng. September 23, 2020. Translated by Qin Yu and edited by Kayer. All complainers are confused in their brains. Those who complain do not understand the truth. A girl entered a food store and asked the shopkeeper for a bag of rat poison. I'm sorry, replied the manager, but this is a food store and we don't sell rat poison. The girl complained, why do you not sell rat poison? You made my trip for nothing. There was a rabbit who had been looking throughout a cornfield all day to find some carrots to eat without finding any, so it complained, humans do not care about us, why do they not grow carrots in their cornfields? There was a worker who, seeing his boss driving their Mercedes-Benz to work every day, complained, the world is unfair. Why should he drive to work in his Benz while I have to take crowded buses every day? A wife complained to her husband, "Your former classmates have all become directors of divisions and directors general, while you are not even a section chief. I am ashamed of you." Her husband complained back, "Others' wives are so sensible, only you criticize me every day." A social media netizen who entered a special flirting group hung around for a long time and then complained, "There is no preaching and talking of scriptures or Tao here, neither are there cooking skills or healthcare experiences. How can you all be so boring?" A man came to a dictator's paradise and complained, "There is no democratic atmosphere here. Why should he always have the final say in everything and disregard the public's opinions? It is grossly unfair." One came to the prairie and complained, "I like climbing mountains, but there are no mountains here, which disappoints me a lot." After careful analysis, it is found that the head of any complainer must have been kicked by a donkey, their brain has short-circuited, or their mom must have mistaken a contraceptive for a cold medicine. I once complained until I finally found out that I might have entered the wrong room, taken my wife's sister as my wife, taken snakes as dragons, or become sworn brothers with pigs. Have you ever complained? What do you do when someone keeps on complaining around you? My experience is to pay them no attention because they are unreasonable and enjoy making trouble out of nothing. The more you care about it, the more trouble you will have. We can only lend deaf ears to them. Of course, you can laugh in your heart, laugh at this person who must have gotten up on the wrong side of their bed or their neurological synapses have opened, so that this kind of complaining will not hurt you, make you unpleasant, or anger you to explode.
做人不要追求公正公平。
As people, we should not pursue justice and fairness. Zufeng.